Yo, Sanjay Uchiha here, people, and I'm bringing you a special Dragon Ball Super discussion video proposed by a fellow subscriber. Well, probably not fellow, but a subscriber of mine. So, welcome, David, or as you have it on your YouTube channel, Kale Chips, but David. Welcome, man. What's up?
Yeah. Oh, what's up, man? Yeah. Thanks for doing a collab with me. Yeah, so I don't mind, Sanjay calling me David. I just think it would be very weird for somebody to call me Kale, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, man. So welcome to the channel again. I really appreciate you reaching out to me for this collab, honestly speaking.
Yeah, as I said before we started recording, I prefer channels like this one that critique and like to give some insight on Dragon Ball because it's different as opposed to what a lot of people do.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of try to break things down and not be biased, I suppose.
Right, because I feel that a lot of people, their issue is with criticism is that they feel like it's a negative mindset, but the truth is, I enjoy just as much as anybody. It's just that I critique it because, why not make it better if possible, so.
Yeah, definitely. All right, man, so as you would have said to me off air, you actually want to speak a bit about Goku's character overall in Super for this video, which I feel is I think I have covered a similar topic on my channel earlier this year when the current arc was starting, but I mean there's never too much discussion on Dragon Ball, honestly, so yeah.
Yeah, I decided this would be a good topic to bring up because I feel that, like no matter how, or I'm sorry, I should rephrase that, no matter when you're watching Dragon Ball or whichever series, always the question of his character comes up, and a lot of people, I think, misinterpret it. So I'm not saying that other people's opinions are necessarily wrong, but they might, they might see it a different way as someone else, such as me.
Yeah. Okay, so to kind of build off the argument, like most of you guys out there know, ever since, well, probably not ever since Super started, but just Super on a whole, people have been complaining about the writers, Toriyama, Toei, essentially dumbing down Goku's character. So that's really the general complaint throughout the fandom. So anything to say on that?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, just gonna play devil's advocate here. I feel that a lot of people, they haven't even seen classic Dragon Ball when he was a child, because a lot of people like to reference Dragon Ball Z, and I wonder how come nobody ever references when he was a child. So that's why I think maybe a lot of people might not have seen that series, because if they watched Goku as a child, to me, if anything, I think Dragon Ball Super kind of brings back that personality when he was a little kid.
Yeah, definitely. I've kind of said it to myself over essentially the 2 years that Super has been going on, is that Super definitely feels like a decent mesh in terms of tone between Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, which, I mean, granted, in terms of the manga, it's the same series anyway, but if we were just segmenting it, yeah, it feels like a decent mesh of the two. And as you've mentioned, a lot of people more than likely would have just seen Z. Like, I myself would have started with Z during the whole Toonami era, obviously, and I'd eventually get into Dragon Ball. So I definitely understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like same as me, I grew up with, I remember here, there's a channel that was called WB something. It's basically, it used to be played every morning, before kids went to school, and yeah, because I grew up in the 90s, so I was born in 89, so I feel like they wouldn't have showed it anyway, the classic Dragon Ball when he was a child. So I only got to see it because I took it upon myself to Google it, watch it online in Japanese and English. So for me, it was a bit different because I took it upon myself to make sure I saw everything. So
yeah, I get what you mean. And as you mentioned, the whole growing up aspect, I think, as we'd have been talking about off air, is that Funimation's original dub of the series would have painted Goku in a slightly different light than was originally intended by like Toriyama, because at this point everybody's aware, everybody's discussed the fact that Goku was intentionally built to be this. He's not a bad guy, but he's really selfish and just really concerned about improving himself over time. He more or less views the people around him as comrades, more or less, but at his core, he's really a selfish guy.
Yeah, and that's why that's when I get into the whole discussion of, what's the difference between somebody like Goku being selfish as opposed to, like, let's say for example, Krillin being selfish, because a lot of people like to define him, as a human being, but a lot of times Goku, he might do something that seems selfish, or I guess people might consider rude at a lot of times, but a lot of
Yeah.
times because he doesn't know, he really doesn't know better, he just learns, and he's not one of those types of characters where he makes excuses. He just says, "Oh, really?" and then he just says sorry, and
Yeah,
if he
yeah.
ever does, yeah. So yeah.
But yeah, definitely. But as you mentioned that, I think this is where, like, on the side of things that where you can't really blame him is that you mentioned that you people look at him as a human, and I think that's the case, that people are kind of, as fans, judging him by, I guess, quote unquote human standards when he's a Saiyan. But I think where they could be like justified in their arguments is on two fronts. Um, by comparing him to Vegeta, I suppose, and in terms of like his progression and how he's evolved over the years to, I guess, become more humanistic, I guess, if I could put it like that.
Oh
And
yeah. That's why he, like that. No, you're absolutely correct. That's why if I noticed as he got older as an adult, he kind of is starting to act a little bit more human because he's learning still.
yeah, and I think like the second point where like people complain about Goku's character in Super, where they could be justified, is that you expect, like, Goku essentially started off as this country boy essentially, and it's been like in universe, like, I don't know what, 30 40 years more or less at this point, and you would expect that some natural progression in terms of him interacting with Bulma, Yamcha, all these characters over the years would kind of learn some, I guess, some of the societal norms at this point. And it's not people aren't really expecting Goku to be this overly complex character essentially, because I mean, at the end of the day, it's Dragon Ball. It's just supposed to be this fun martial arts. This, I mean, Toriyama's a gag artist essentially, so at
Right.
its core, it's
Yeah.
not. Yeah,
Oh no, go ahead. I was just meant to say yeah.
yeah. I mean, at its core, it's not really supposed to be this complex story, but I mean, I guess people have this expectation. I mean, to a certain degree, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, if Goku would, would automate, if he ended up being considerate, or if he started acting, I guess we could say, a little bit too human, I feel that would be worse. I actually kind of prefer him being, that's who Goku is, like, not normal, I guess I could say, if that even makes sense, to
Yeah.
our standards.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I get what you mean, but I mean, like, generally speaking, like, as we'd have been talking about off air as well, in terms of certain points in Super where people feel like they've essentially massacred Goku's character, like things like him not kissing his wife, and I mean, what was there any other like points that it felt like his character had been like dumbed down, as quoted by the community? I don't know.
Um, I think that the kissing is what started it, because that's when the whole argument of, English dub versus Japanese dub kind of popped up again, because people were arguing as to, what is the more preferred version. That's kind of what always seems to come up is, Japanese versus English. But like I always tell people, you can't really argue these two, because, these characters were made to be different in both languages. So like we can't really say which one is more, accurate. I mean, I personally I prefer the Japanese dub, but that still wouldn't be really fair to the dub by saying, oh, this is wrong.
Yeah.
So Yeah, like I said, I just think everyone just has to decide for themselves rather than, argue as to which is the right one, because that's everyone always seems to go back to that. So
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, at the end of the day, it just all comes down to preference, essentially. I mean, there's
yeah,
nothing,
exactly.
yeah, there's nothing wrong with like criticizing and kind of analyzing the performances. Like recently, I was watching the dub of Super up to like episode 27. I need to kind of catch up, but I did look at the Kaioken times 10 scene, and honestly, I honestly prefer Sean's stream there, powering up to Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken times 10. But I mean, at the end of the day, it just comes down to you shouldn't be like bashing someone who prefers the other dub, essentially.
Right, like if anything, even though I prefer the Japanese dub, my favorite English dub actors is definitely Sean.
Yeah.
But the one I really like though, I forgot her last name, but her first name's Tiffany. She did Kid Goku in original Dragon Ball. I think she plays Gohan if I'm right in Z.
Yeah,
Gohan
I definitely prefer her. Her performance as Gohan as well in the original Z dub. Not that there's anything
Yeah,
wrong with the current Kid Gohan slash Kai actor or actress, but I don't know. It just it's just I don't know. Probably because I grew up with it still, so probably just that.
yeah, and when I see Tiffany, I'm sorry, no, what was her name? Oh no, it is. I think it is Tiffany Vollmer, right? The one that does English dub Volma.
I believe that's the case.
Yeah, and I think she retired after Kai, if I'm correct. So in Super, it's not her; it's someone else.
Well, I'm not completely sure on that.
I think it is, yeah. Because I do know that she did Kai, but I did hear that she retired from voice acting, as opposed to like at least for Dragon Ball. I
Yeah.
did read about that somewhere, but yeah, I'm digressing. But I did love Bulma in original Dragon Ball Z, because she was kind of like, to me, she was kind of like the Japanese dub of Bulma, the one that just recently passed away, because she was the one that the only one that did it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, definitely get what you mean. And it kind of, or we're kind of digressing, but it kind of goes back to what I was saying in my video on Hirome Suru, that, I mean, how much longer can, like, these actors and actresses essentially accommodate the series in the long run? You gotta kind of look at it from that perspective, essentially.
right, because a lot of people, if anything, they actually expected, Goku's voice actress to pass away, because she's the oldest out of everybody.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Like,
I mean,
so I'm
yeah.
just
So,
wondering how much longer the series is gonna go on for, but
and and personally, I feel like maybe the reason why Toriyama is going all out on Super, because if I was him, from my thought point of view, I would think that it's better to go out with one big last bang with one big series, which is Dragon Ball Super, because like you just said, how much longer can he really drag it out?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's like,
definitely.
God forbid something happens, right, to the main voice actors of Goku. Yeah, and then then that would be even worse than this. Like, people wouldn't even stand for hearing anybody else.
Yeah. Yeah, like it would be like, I think I'm one of the persons here, like in Jamaica, like let me tell you, bro, like a lot of people here don't like the Japanese voice actress here, honestly speaking. Like, not like, they just prefer hearing the English dub. They feel it's more
You know what?
suitable.
That's interesting, because I actually was like that. I actually did not like her as adult Goku. I still prefer her as when Goku was a child. I felt that I fitted a little bit much better, because sometimes Goku's voice kind of cracks at times.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I totally understand that, because I felt the same way too for a while. So
Yeah, but I mean, in that light, while we're on the topic of Masako Nozawa, I hope I didn't butcher her name, but I thought her performance as Goku Black was it's totally amazing, though.
yeah, when I go back and watch, a couple scenes, when how Goku Black, the difference is when I know she sounds like Goku, because they're both the same character essentially, but she sounded really sadistic. If anything, I think she did a better job voicing Black than Goku himself.
Yeah, like definitely, like Like when it's just like when I heard Black talk in mainly 48, I believe it was 48. It was just I'm like, shit, this is pretty good. It's pretty. She just kind of captures the whole atmosphere and tone around that character, honestly.
Yeah, and I don't know if you remember, but the laughs that Goku Black would do, like it was very sadistic when Goku Black would laugh.
Yeah, true. That's definitely true.
Yeah, because I'm used to hearing, Goku, not, like Goku's never sadistic or cruel, but then, when you hear that same exact voice doing something different, it's very interesting. So,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, at the end of the day, you gotta give props to these voice actors and actresses, honestly. Like,
oh yeah.
yeah, definitely, man. But I mean, back onto the main topic. I mean, I guess we could put this video as a, I don't know, Goku's character, Japanese versus English dub discussion. I don't know. But,
I mean,
yeah,
we can even talk. We can even talk about the pink elephant everyone's talking about. We can talk about Kefla.
yeah. I mean, yeah. So I guess it's just a general super discussion
Yeah.
essentially. But yeah, we can move on to that. Kefla, like.
I think you already know what I'm gonna say.
And it's ridiculous, honestly. And as we're kind of transitioning into this, I think like probably by the end of the year, next month, I wouldn't mind doing another collab, like just speaking about like the entire arc so far. Because like I believe it was last year I did a video on Super, and it's funny, like I keep doing these videos. Like when I started the channel, my very first video was my opinion on Super to date, and it just feels like at this point nothing has really changed in terms of execution, honestly.
No, I agree. I just felt that, this arc was really hyped up because, it was like the comeback of all these characters, and, the animation art is a lot better.
Yeah,
So-
because when episode 70, was it 77? Yeah, when it started, I feel they used this new filter and all of that, and the art was looking pretty damn good, and I'm like, okay, fair enough. The art, like, honestly, the arc started pretty good with the Zen exhibition match to me, but it just went downhill ever since the recruitment aspect of it started, honestly.
Right, because I know a lot of people, they don't want filler, they don't want, it to go on too long. But personally, I would rather the arc, kind of build up and go a little bit slower, because that way it has a little bit more time to, like just kind of build upon the arc. But since we're just, I mean, it's already been, God knows how long, we're almost done with this universe already, this tournament arc.
Yeah, well, granted, we still have a few more months, considering they said the arc should end in March.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah,
That's true, yeah.
yeah, you have a point, honestly, because like this is the longest arc in Super so far. We're what, like 40 episodes in almost, essentially, and go ahead, just go ahead.
Oh yeah. Well, no, I was just thinking because it's like to speak upon the episodes. I think the reason why I also didn't really bother to talk about or even make videos on Super, because the first two arcs, it was basically Battle of the Gods, and it was Resurrection F, and I was like, why is Super repeating two movies? I think that's why I wasn't really fond of it at first.
Honestly,
I wasn't expecting that. That's
yeah.
why.
I mean, I wasn't expecting that either, especially when I just saw the initial article. I believe I saw it on Saiyan Island in terms of Super coming out. I wasn't too fond of it either, but I didn't have a big problem with it because I was of the notion that it's like this, okay? If you're going to redo these two movies, there's a lot of potential to improve upon the writing or any flaws that were in those movies, because at the end of the day, the episodes they're not gonna have the same budget and quality in terms of like visual aspects when you compare them to the movies.
Yeah.
So if not visually speaking, if you're already at a disadvantage there, you're gonna have to like make up for it in terms of the writing. So stuff like Frieza's training, probably some more context with Super Saiyan Blue, kind of rectifying the power scaling from early so it doesn't become total bullshit in the end, then fine, I'd be good with it. But they had more screen time and the execution was worse, worse than the movies,
Yeah,
honestly.
no, I agree. A lot of people that actually give constructive criticism, they actually point that out because yeah, that's when I felt that they really started on a bad note. When they had Goku go Super Saiyan 3, and that was one of it was like one of the most unbelievable things that people had saw in the bad way.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I
definitely.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Honestly, where should we even go from here? Do we kind of start from the beginning of Super, or do we go back to the Universal
Um,
Survival arc? Because we
yeah,
were kind of on Kefla about to, and we kind of just kind of went back here.
Yeah, it's because since you were talking about episodes, yeah, because it got me thinking. Because like I said, I didn't think Super was really as good as it should have been. Like when those two arcs came out, it's kind of, but you pretty much explained it very, very, in an excellent way. Because it was kind of what you had said that made me stop watching it, and I waited until,
Yeah,
um, the Black Goku arc, or I should say Future Trunks saga, because I just didn't like it, so that's good. You
yeah.
explained exactly how I was trying to word it. So
And to that end, before we even go back to Kefla, like I think like especially in terms of the power scale, this is why I kind of prefer the manga. You see, the whole plot point of Goku keeping the Super Saiyan God power in his base and Super Saiyan forms, and then being able to like stack whatever multiplier it is again. Like for the long term, removing that plot point would have been a plus, and this is why I kind of prefer the manga. Toyota removed that plot point essentially. So like I'm not saying the manga is perfect. It has its power scaling issues, especially in the Goku Black arc as well. But just removing that plot point from the Battle of Gods part of the story kind of makes things more, I guess, logical.
no, I agree. When I read the manga, I mean, it does seem like a bit more thought is put into the writing because it's not just like okay, like we're not throwing all these curveballs. Like it goes at a much slower pace, which is I think that's why it allows the writer for the manga to be a
Yeah.
little bit more precise and he's not rushed.
Yeah, yeah,
So
definitely. Um, well, let's go back to Kefla, honestly, and boy,
yeah, the best for last.
yeah, like I've kind of stated my opinion, and I think I've broken down like my points fair enough. Even though I think there's like one point that I heard. I don't remember which channel I was on. They made a good point in terms of like the power scaling, and it's essentially this that essentially every fusion we've seen their base form of it's always been stronger than the strongest form of any of the component parts. So like base Vegito is stronger than Super Saiyan 3 Goku, our base Gotenks is stronger than Super Saiyan or Goten or Trunks, or of course like just along those lines essentially. So since Kale in her master berserk form was trading hands with God Goku, weakened or not, whatever, base Kefla being stronger than that maybe justified. That's just another way to look at it, like just
Actually, yeah,
critically.
that's a very good point. That's actually why, you know, like I actually agreed, up to that point. I think for me the only issue was like, how fast that this is going,
Yeah,
how.
definitely.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I agree. I didn't think it was odd because Kale, which I always like to say, that's why I think Kale has an edge over Khalifa, like when they're separated because she was actually able to keep up with him. If anything, she was the one pushing him back, not Khalifa.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Because I mean, Goku essentially one-shotted Caulifla.
Yeah, pretty
But
much.
even
Yeah.
I think even like looking back on my episode 114 review, like the biggest problems I had in between the whole contradictions and the power scale Kefla, I think I had a bigger problem with the contradictions in terms of how I was mentioning how Goku didn't necessarily have to go Super Saiyan Blue a lot of times in this tournament, and how it goes against the whole writing of the stamina conservation and all of that. I think that was the bigger problem, honestly. But
Right, and I just feel like it's just a little bit too fast, because he said he was tired, like what, an episode ago or 2 episodes ago, and then all of a sudden now we don't know. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's hard to
and
really tell.
yeah, it's sloppy, and the reason why it's sloppy, especially like when I compare it to, I mean, the manga's not that far, but it's just the fact that Toei has all this screen time compared to the manga, and they feels like they don't really do anything with it in terms of like effective execution, really.
Yeah, and I think I read somewhere that a lot of people assume that Toriyama was just an advisor, but to my knowledge now, he's actually the one like supervising the whole thing, which I personally felt like if that's true, that's even worse. I mean,
Um,
because I would understand if it was someone else doing the episodes and he just advising it, but apparently somebody, well, or many references stated that he has full control over it or something along those lines.
to my knowledge, which has kind of basically been said to death, for the last year or so, that Toriyama does the outline and all of that, but I did a video recently in terms of like Dragon Ball Super's true enemy, as according to my thumbnail for that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, like it's ridiculous. Is itself that I don't. It's not that Toriyama has full control, but by the time you really like have Toriyama writing the outline, then you go to Toei, and if you saw the news and recent interviews with the ex-director and current producer for Super that came out of the, was it Barcelona, or that recent convention they had, in terms of they mentioned how much people actually work on an episode. Like, I think there's just too many writers involved, essentially, especially on the anime side, obviously, for obvious reasons. Um,
Yeah, that's why, I have this theory that I feel like they're trying to please us with the great animation. You know what I mean? They rather focus their time on that because that's what people were giving them crap about was the animation in the beginning.
yeah, and I mean they've they've improved, obviously, honestly.
Yeah, they
Like,
have. Yeah.
ever since the Universe 6 versus Universe 7, but especially like the choreography, like ever since the Goku Black arc started, like things have been like improving. Um, and the thing is, like when you scour through like the comment sections, like various videos, people would like say, okay, these Dragon Ball Z fanboys are acting like Z wasn't like didn't have its own problems, and usually like my response to that is that yeah, Z and original Dragon Ball had its problems, but I think the problem with Super is that Super takes those problems and either makes them more often, hence why we kind of complain almost every week, or
Right.
or they take those same problems and kind of escalate them to like ridiculous heights. So like I guess like Z had this kind of like this line where it's okay, acceptable bullshits, but like Super kind of just goes beyond that, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that's why, like, personally, I felt that power levels, like, in terms of numbers, like when they had the scouters, it was interesting because, it kind of let you know how good somebody was in terms of fighting. But at the same time, I think because of that, a lot of people, they're very concerned with power scaling. Like, a lot of their focus is on that because before, all it took was a higher number, right? And then you automatically knew who would be stronger. So.
Yeah, yeah, like that's the thing, and I think I made the comparison already. It's not like, okay, it's like if this was a Naruto, like you can be stronger than somebody like in terms of raw power, which I guess would translate to a number, a power level. But there's so many factors that could go into a fight, like within a series like Naruto, that could make someone who's weaker than you actually beat you, and that doesn't seem to be the case in Super at all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, like for example, to touch on the subject, like you said, like in Naruto, like I've seen the whole thing.
yeah.
Except I've actually haven't watched starting when Naruto awakens and him and Sasuke they get the powers and they face off. And
The
I haven't watched up to there yet.
the plot armor power up, but yeah.
Right, yeah, like I haven't even seen the wedding that everybody hates too. Well, not everybody, but yeah, a lot of people don't like that either.
Yeah.
The whole shipping, but yeah, like I would see in Naruto that what they did was even if, like you said, someone was exceptionally more skilled or stronger, at the end of the day, they could still be killed by a simple kunai or shuriken.
Yeah, it just depends.
Yeah, like
because
they were just so good that it never happened, but it's possible.
yeah, it is possible. Like take Itachi for instance. There are a lot of characters stronger than Itachi, like especially going towards the end of the series, but like with his the Totsuka blade that his Susanoo has that can essentially seal you in one hit. Like if he plays his cards right, he could potentially beat anybody. It just depends, really. So there's that. For
You know,
people.
yeah, and I think that's why he's such a fan favorite because even though he's so powerful, like he doesn't use his powers. If anything, he just brings it out at the right time.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. But I mean, super, super, super. I like it makes you question like how is this series going on for this long with all these problems? Honestly.
Yeah, you know, and I think is the reason probably why, like, just for me at least, I think I didn't have too much of a problem with, classic Dragon Ball when he was a kid because, Toriyama was fresh. This was a brand new series, and I feel like it is very hard to kind of meet the expectations. You know what I mean? Because, like, a lot of times, even with movies or something as, anything like that, where the first one might be really good, and then like it sets the bar really high, and the next one's just as good, and then from there on it seems to be like a downfall.
Yeah.
Like so, I just think it's also because of expectations. Like I wouldn't, it's very hard to make something better than your best. If that
Yeah,
makes any
yeah, I
sense.
definitely get what you're saying. But like I've said it before, like Super's biggest problem, apart from the amount of writers on the anime side of things, at least, is context. Like, there's proper build-up, honestly speaking.
Yeah, I think I'm not so much as like I wouldn't say upset, but I think for me it's not necessarily like I don't like Hefla because she's strong. It's just the way that she's getting the power. Like in less than 3 episodes, like she's already on that same level as Goku.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Because, like, if you really look in terms of in-universe time, it's probably been at most, I don't know, 48 hours and some minutes since they learned
Yeah.
about Super Saiyan, really. So, like, and there's no like, this is where what I mean in terms of the context as well. Like, what's the basis for like why does Kale become a Berserker Super Saiyan compared to a regular? Why doesn't she become a regular Super Saiyan? What's so different about her? Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's why I feel like maybe I think ever since they gave Future Trunks, the Super Saiyan Rage,
bullshit.
it's become
It's bullshit.
yeah, like it's becoming like this new thing, like you know what I mean, like this Broly form, like people like to call it.
Yeah, like, and it's like in a nutshell, like it's epic shit. Like it's epic stuff, but like when you break it down, it makes no sense. Like another example is like when I compare the Goku versus Hit fight in the manga versus the anime, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so Hit can stop time. I don't see why Goku powering up even more should like affect that. Like, okay, how is he negating like the time stop? It doesn't make any sense. But at least in the manga, there's some context to say, okay, Hit can stop time for like a tenth of a second, and he can only hold that full tenth of a second based on how strong he is, relatively speaking, to who he's up against. So okay, there's some context there for why. And it's like it's cases like that where force people to try and use the manga's logic to justify the anime's logic, which really and truly shouldn't be the case.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, like even though it does make like it might make a lot more sense, because I do some things I really do prefer in the manga, but the truth is like it's like night and day, like same context but different. You know what I mean? Like they're both
Yeah.
different situations. Yeah. So
Honestly, I just think, I don't know. What do you think about the idea of just, if Super's production process was like the the usual manga first and then an anime adaptation? I don't know. What do you think about that?
personally, I've always liked the manga coming out first because I feel that at the end of the day, like sure, reading it's always nice, but I think a lot of people like to see like I know anime is not live action, but that's the closest that fans get to it. So I prefer seeing it in a manga first because that kind of gives you like a preview,
Yeah.
and then I'd rather they focus their time afterwards, on the actual anime. And sometimes the anime, like they add like a little bit few things here and there, and some people might consider that to be better, as opposed to just reading the manga. So I think like the execution is kind of wrong in a sense when you have the anime first, because then that's why everybody goes back to the manga, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
So
definitely, definitely. It's kind
yeah,
of.
because I
I mean, I've already done a video in terms of um why Super is actually so successful despite the fact that it sucks. You could probably check that out if you haven't checked it out already, man. Um, if anything, I could always just link you to it after we actually get done with this video here. But
okay, sure. Mhm.
I mean, I don't know, man. Super is just it's just to the point. It's selling merchandise, and I guess that's like one of the driving forces at this point, honestly.
Yeah, like I think it's because they know that at the end of the day, like even though there is a lot of things that we complain about, and the truth is, yeah, I'll still watch it regardless. But it's just the fact that I just wish they wouldn't do it so like half-assed sometimes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
I'm not saying, yeah, like every episode doesn't have to be a masterpiece necessarily, but it feels like they're now sacrificing the writing just to make it look good. At least that's how I see it sometimes. So
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. I get what you're saying, bro. Definitely. God, it's crazy. But I mean, let's see. Tonight we have Ultra Instinct Goku versus Kefla. Any thoughts on that?
I personally don't think it should have happened. I'm still gonna watch it, but I don't think it should have happened because unless Goku can completely annihilate her, because let's be real, he needed that form to take on Jiren. So if Kefla can keep up with that, I mean, then I really have no words for that. I mean, how do you explain that?
Yeah, like weakened or not, like
Yeah.
at this point, even though he's weak in Ultra Instinct, he's arguably more powerful than if he was fresh and in like Kaioken times 20 in blue, honestly. So the fact that
Right, because she.
it
Oh no,
doesn't,
go ahead. Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't even seem like Goku's gonna one shot her at all. So like,
Yeah, that's when I'm like, okay, that's why I always make a joke on your videos. Might as well just have her go blue and just beat everybody. Then she can be the one to wish everybody back.
yeah, like people make jokes every now and then, like probably next episode Kefla versus the Daishinkan, like it's insane, stupid, stupid.
And I don't know if you play the phone game, Tokan for Dragon Ball, but they as soon as Kefla like came out in that episode last week,
Yeah,
they immediately released her for the Tokan the game for the phone. I'm like, oh man.
it's.
Have you played it by the way? The
I
Dokkan
actually don't play Dokkan. Like the only things I played these days, like video game wise, um, is literally Pokemon Revolution Online and the Mega Man X playthroughs that I've recently started uploading. I don't even have like where I am right now. I don't have my Xbox on me. I have a 360. I'm kind of overdue to upgrade to a Xbox One, but
Well, I mean, I'll be honest. Like, I have a PS4, but this is the first year I haven't bought a game for it at all.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, if that's why, like, I play Dokkan more than I used to, but I've noticed, like, on the Japanese version, not for global,
yeah.
they already have Kefla. I'm like, and she's like, oh, of course, right now she's one of the most overpowering characters. I'm like, go figure.
It's
Yeah.
ridiculous, man. It's insane. But as I would have like said in my power skill video on Kefla, like it's bullshit, but it is what it is. If base Kefla is as strong as Super Saiyan God Weekend or not, like scaling wise, she should Goku's gonna need Ultra Instinct. It's ridiculous, but it is what it is.
Right. So, and that's the funny thing that I feel like this is my theory that I feel like they only did this just to force Goku to bring out Ultra Instinct again.
Yeah,
Because I
like
feel like, yeah, like nobody would be able to push him that far. So I think that's why they decided to make up Kefla just for
yeah,
this. So.
I mean, because at the end of the day, like they need an excuse for him to quote unquote master the form before like
Yeah.
or something to that sort effect before actually going up against Jiren again, I suppose.
Oh man.
Insane. But this is I actually didn't expect this little discussion video of ours to like last as long. We're going like 40 minutes in already. It's
Oh
pretty
man. I
insane.
really hope I really hope people they enjoy this because I thought this was a very interesting discussion.
Yeah, yeah. Even though we didn't like initially, I was kind of expecting to speak on Goku's character, but I just hope they enjoy it because it's we kind of lack structure here. We're kind of like all over the place, honestly.
Yeah, because I didn't want to just talk about one thing because I'd rather talk about something that everyone has a problem with, just to kind of get them to
Yeah,
give their input on this. So
but yeah, definitely that's understandable, man. And honestly, I am like despite the problems, I am looking forward to tonight's episode. Honestly speaking, like should be interesting.
yeah, I personally I was actually really hoping for an android fusion because Krillin was so against it because his wife would be combined with her brother. You know how awkward that would be.
That was awkward, but I think like when they mention that, I think a lot of people forget that like Elder Kai currently is a fusion of a male and a female. So I guess considering that 17 is stronger, he probably would be the dominant one, and the resulting fusion probably would be male, which doesn't
Oh
really speak
man.
well for Krillin at all. But
Oh man, I'm glad you brought up Elder Kai. I forgot that he fused with the witch. I wondered why he was always so old. I keep forgetting.
yeah. Oh, and
He
as
did
you
mention.
mentioned that, like I kind of just got the idea for a video, like if the quote unquote Patara retcon, if it was justified, because I think because people view Elder Kai as this old and wise character, that his statement of the Patara being permanent um was justified, and that the Patara retcon was complete bullshit. But the fact of the matter is, before fusing, he more or less was the same age as, like visually speaking, as current Supreme Kai. So it might not be too far of a stretch to say maybe he didn't have all the answers where Patara was concerned. Probably.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, he was locked away, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. But there is something interesting that I don't know if people caught on to this. So, do you remember in Future Trunks Saga? Because I know we're getting off topic, but since we're on Elder Kai, do you remember when his sword broke at one point fighting Goku Black? I always wondered if the Z sword held Elder Kai, why
Yeah.
wouldn't it be the same for Future Trunks universe? I've always wondered why that never happened. Because
Ah, yes.
I mean, I would have thought that it would have made more sense for Elder Kai to come out of the sword and like power him up or something like that. But when the sword broke, nothing happened.
Yeah, yeah, that's one thing. And I think as you asked that, it's kind of in the same lane as someone asking like when Goku Black was killing like all the Kais and the gods, like what happened to like Toppo and Jiren and all these people in the multiverse. Um but yeah, it would have made more sense honestly, especially for the manga, because I see a lot of people complain that Trunks didn't really do much in the manga, even though I do prefer it than the whole Super Saiyan Rage nonsense. But yeah, that would have given like Trunks the, I guess, the edge in terms of usefulness in the manga.
Yeah, because clearly the Supreme Kai at the time, because I am assuming it's the same sword, because you know how Supreme Kai was the one that gave Trunks that, right? Apparently in the manga. So yeah, so I was just thinking if it's the same sword, then I would expect Elder Kai, but then they're probably gonna throw in that argument. Well, it's not exactly the same universe, right? So technically speaking,
Yeah.
yeah,
But it's
different version.
I guess. But I mean, you could always chalk it up to like Toriyama and Toyotaro. The rest just probably just forgot and didn't really consider it. Because I mean, at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure us as fans kind of think more on these things than the actual writers themselves.
Right, because they probably are so busy trying to cover every single loophole, so they probably forget one here and there. So,
But I think Geekdom said it best. I think it was Geekdom that it would have been the best move would have to have a continuity like an editor that kind of looks back on stuff before they actually make choices to write future stories or something to that effect.
right, because that's why when I watch the older series, like there were a lot of references from before, and it kind of like filled in a little questions here and there, and now it's like we're left with more questions in Super. So
It's ridiculous, man. But
yeah.
I don't know. Is there anything else you want to speak on before?
Um. No, no, no. No. It would just since this was our first collab, I figured we would talk about multiple things, and it seems like we cut a lot of information out. So
Yeah, yeah. It's it's like every time I'm looking down at the time here, I'm like, we've been here like 45 minutes and counting. It's crazy, though. It's
hey man,
crazy.
it's because we're having fun. Yeah, I didn't think I would be bothered to even make videos on Dragon Ball. So
Yeah, I get what you mean. But I mean, okay, I mean, if we don't really have anything else to say, then I guess we can cut this here.
oh yeah, yeah, that's fine, man. Yeah, that's kind of why I was kind of glad that you didn't mind recording it because I don't even have anything that would you know record us and
Yeah,
accurately put it up on YouTube. Yeah, so because I'm
yeah,
using Skype from my phone.
yeah. Well, no, no problem, man. It's no problem
Yeah.
at all. But honestly, I'm probably just gonna throw up a thumbnail for this one, honestly, because I like the Naruto videos I was working on was like it's like 30 something minutes, and I'm definitely throwing in stuff for that. And I'm like what almost 10 minutes in terms of editing in the timeline there. So for this, I'm just gonna throw up a thumbnail, man. Honestly.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, by the way, who's that Uchiha on your thumbnail for your channel? I could never tell. Is that Madara?
Yeah, it's Madara. Like the main picture itself, it should be Sasuke if memory serves right. And then I have like Madara. I did this effect called clipping mask in Photoshop. Basically, put the Madara image in the Sasuke image essentially.
Oh, I see. Okay. Because I was thinking you could put like, I mean, I'm pretty sure Google has a whole bunch of shit already, but you could probably put like, Madara and Kale or something. You know what I mean?
But as you mentioned
Yeah.
that, I probably do need to like get a new like create a new banner image essentially for the channel. But I think I'll reserve that till New Year, honestly.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. Like if you go on my channel, I just put up like Kale powering up. I didn't know what to put for the background. I just put whatever.
Yeah, I'm a bit like picky myself or indecisive sometimes when it comes down to these design choices. But again, thanks for proposing this discussion collab, man. Honestly, I really did enjoy having you on the channel, and I'm actually looking forward to doing like future collabs with you, man.
Oh, no problem, man. Yeah, thanks for having me. I think like whenever we have time, maybe like on weekends. I guess would that be preferred for you?
Yeah, that would be preferable at this point, honestly, until I guess my schedule change up. Because at the moment, I have work during the day, and by the time I come home, I currently like stay with a friend. So yeah,
Oh,
weekends
I
would be
hear you.
good.
Yeah. That's cool. I mean, yeah, I have morning and night classes, so weekends is good for me too. So.
Yeah, but all right, I guess I'll just kill the recording. So guys, be sure to rate, comment, subscribe. Check out David on his channel, Kale Chips. So yeah, see you guys in the next one. This is a bit lengthy, so I guess you guys can like treat this as like a podcast if you're like traveling or doing some assignment or something. So thanks again, and we'll see you guys in the next one.